Dear students, and not only students, but everyone else who has contributed, parents, grandparents, siblings, spouses, soon-to-be spouses, faculty, and staff. On behalf of the Gordon and Jill Bournes College of Engineering at California Baptist University, it is an honor and a privilege for me to be here today and share this moment of accomplishments with you. Congratulations to the 19% of you who have successfully completed and earned a high enough grade in my senior class that you can be here today. However, the poor 81% of the others of you, you didn't pass my class. Presumably, however, that was because you simply weren't required to take it, and not that you are any less than the elite students that we know you to be. Just 2 months ago, I wouldn't have dreamed that we would be celebrating your accomplishments in this way today. And while so much has changed, how we completed the end of our semester and finished our school, I would like to reflect on ways that perhaps the unordinary may contain a blessing. The first, unordinary circumstances reveal God at work. Whenever there are unordinary circumstances, there is this opportunity to see God working. Perhaps we are often too busy or too preoccupied to notice it at other times. But when something is ordinary, then we get a slight glimpse into a little bit more fuller of who God is. For Moses in the wilderness, it was the unordinary circumstance of a bush that was on fire, but yet that wasn't burning up, that arrested his attention and made him look and led to a conversation that he had with God, and that conversation resulted in his life's work. God is often at work through the lives and actions of people who follow him and live by his principles. While I know of other areas where you, our engineering graduates, are engaging the world, there's one situation, one example that stands out in my memory from our Formula SAE vehicle competition last summer. One of the design judges commented to me that he was seeing you all, our students, interacting differently from how they often see people and other teams and their interactions in the pit. You see, you showed respect for each other. You had attitudes of cooperation and lack of negative things that I won't even list that often stressful situations brings out in teams. That unordinary attitude by you was noticed, and I feel it is a great testimony to others of God at work. Years ago, I was serving as an aircraft mechanic for a Christian ministry. And one day, we were in the air, and the fault in the hydraulic system did not allow the landing gear to extend. We tried the emergency system, and it didn't help either. We flew around for a couple of hours to burn off our fuel load, and we were coming back on final approach. We were planning that we would have to belly in. And the emergency extension system that didn't work before, and still we couldn't get it to work afterwards in ground tests, extended the landing gear, and we landed uneventfully, but much anticipated landing. Later, we discovered that an O-ring had failed. That's a hint for those of you mechanicals who just finished studying hydraulics. That one simple small O-ring, about the diameter of a pencil, caused the entire hydraulic system to be out of commission. We were left with no other explanation for what happened other than a trust in God and the answers of the prayers of people who trusted him, and he chose to reveal himself in some small way that is often unseen or overlooked. It is truly a privilege to work at a place such as California Baptist University, where we are able to look for, recognize, and see the way that God works. 2. Unordinary circumstances open opportunities. The second point I would like to reflect on is that unordinary circumstances often open windows of opportunities. Not the normal opportunities, but extraordinary ones. One thing that I've always appreciated is the way that Christian engineers have been able to apply technology in ways that are novel, often stumbling upon innovations in the process. For example, HCJB, a Christian shortwave radio broadcast station in Ecuador, had a problem. Because of the high altitude, they would have their antenna elements erode away from corona discharge. So they ended up coming up with a new antenna design that solved that problem. Wycliffe's Jungle Aviation and Radio Service designed new seats for their aircraft to improve the crashworthiness of small bush airplanes. And Mission Aviation Fellowship designed a new emergency fuel system that could help keep airplanes in the air when things went wrong with the original fuel distribution on small aircraft. It was Christians in the former Soviet Union who developed the first known printing press that could print on both sides of a page at once in their region. You see, I am confident that you as our graduates will be no different. That instead of fearfully backing into the future, you will take that future in stride, you will advance on it, and that you'll be using your skills in engineering and technology to make a difference, innovating in unordinary circumstances. I have seen the proof of that even while you were students here at CBU with your capstone projects and how you are making a difference and innovating with those. Creating a corollary statement to one that I appreciate from our Dean, Dr. Donaldson, I want to plant the seeds that perhaps every ordinary skill you possess can result in an extraordinary technical innovation when you yield it to God for His purposes. Perhaps every ordinary technical skill you possess can result in an extraordinary technical innovation when yielded to God for His purposes. 3. Unordinary circumstances form memories. The third and final point I would like to reflect upon is that unordinary circumstances often are the seeds that form memories that stay with us. We rarely remember the details of thousands of normal things that happen, and yet some of those unordinary things are vividly etched into our memory. Unordinary experiences, while sometimes less than enjoyable at the time, sometimes stay with us as a memory of a great adventure afterwards. For students in my courses, you've heard some unordinary experiences of my own, such as flying in an aircraft over the Atlantic when an in-flight fire caused us to make an emergency landing on a North Atlantic island. Or a rather embarrassing memory of my thesis defense presentation, when the unchanging traditional expectation of the school I was attending was to present in a full suit. I realized, as I was changing to my suit mere minutes before my presentation, that my pants had fallen off of my hanger and were still at home. I was left with no other option but to present my presentation in my old lab work pants and a polo shirt. Certainly a first and an unordinary experience for everyone who is present. A little bit later on at my graduation, it was part of our tradition there that our professors would hood us. In other words, give us an extra piece of our regalia at our graduation and place it on us. In this long ceremony, after my name was called, I walked up on stage and I stood there for what seemed like an eternity as it was dawning on my mind that something must have gone wrong. I must have failed my classes. My professor was not hooding me. In embarrassment, I walked off the stage, and as I was leaving, it wasn't too long later when the officiator and the audience were calling for me to come back. It turns out that my professor, with all the other dignitaries on stage, had simply fallen asleep and all that was needed was for him to be awakened. I did graduate that day, but that unordinary experience made me and everybody else in the audience smile and remember. In addition, we often remember the beginnings and endings of things, much more than what occurs in between. For example, in the beginning of your courses here, and I know because some of you are in my class, we read a book called Do Hard Things. Do you remember that? Probably. Because that was an unordinary assignment with unordinary thoughts that occurred at the beginning of your coursework. Yet, often those things that are unordinary, that are firsts, that are lasts, they stand out. Do you remember the first classes that we had in the new Troish engineering building? I do. It was a highlight of mine. That is a memory that I treasure, and that experience will stay with me. So the beginnings and endings we remember fairly well, but the things in between often start to fade. That's one reason why we probably won't remember but the quirkiest of our professors. Well, we now find ourselves at the end of years of study. You persevered, you worked hard, and now you're here. Yet it is also the beginning of whatever lies ahead. But this time is unordinary in the ways that we are celebrating your accomplishments. It also means that it will be more vividly remembered. And this is creating a special memory for me as well. While CBU has been one of the best places I have worked at, I have made the difficult decision to relocate to Sacramento so that I can be closer to family. All of these unordinaries stacked on top of each other make this graduation completely unforgettable. In conclusion, I want to share the thought of a pastor I know. He said that one of the best things we can leave with someone is a good memory. Long after time has gone by, memories are still there, surviving. I thank God for the memories formed with you. In the Holy Bible, 2 Corinthians 4 verse 5 has these words that were written by early Christians. And they were an inspiration and a motivation for me as well. It's written there, "For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Jesus the Lord, and ourselves your servants, for Jesus' sake." So my desire is that each one of us would be able to, first of all, see God at work in our own lives, see God working, have a personal relationship with Him, and be able to recognize when He's doing things. Second, to walk through the doors of opportunity that are open to us. Find those. Make a difference. And thirdly, treasure the good memories that are created that often result from unordinary circumstances. Congratulations to the Gordon and Jill Bournes College of Engineering class of 2020.